we got to get you front and center.
Oh, front and center.
There she is. All right, Fennell.
Hey, everybody.
Mia, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. We were texting, we're doing a Project Randy, so Mia is one of our important people to get opinions on CFG enforcers. So we started texting each other, and she didn't think it was me. I had to confirm my identity. She might have thought I was one of my staff. So anyway, so I started chatting at her. It's like, man, I'm one of her biggest fans. I send out her testimony video out to people because she's great testimony. But I wanted you guys to experience Mia, her attitude, and they got that Terry Edwards love going on, and just great examples. So you're blessing us with your presence, Mia. We appreciate you being on, and I can't be more excited to have you on board. And so let her rip. Tell us your story. Tell us how you got in, how Terry and Tia found you, kind of where you were in your life, and then how the Alliance kind of came into your life and sort of changed kind of how you looked at your life.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay? Is it clear?
Yeah, loud and clear. You're coming through cool.
Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be on the call. When Alex was texting me yesterday, I was like, no, this can't be Alex Abuyuan. You know, I'm sitting here like, and then he says, yeah, this is Alex Abuyuan. I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly who you are. So when he asked me to be on the call, it was a no-brainer. Absolutely. I love him and his wife, Jenny, and all that they've done for the Alliance. So it's just a blessing to be here. I have one of you guys, teammates right here, Andrew. He's here with us today.
In the house.
Actor, he's in the house. And we have one of my rock stars, Elisha. He's here, and Tanisha as well. Both of them are killing it in our group, submitting business, recruiting, selling, building, all that. So I wanted to make sure they were here as well. But kind of just to give you guys my background, I've been with the Alliance now since April 14th of 2018. And so we're to go all the way back. I graduated from college from a school in North Carolina. I currently live in Charlotte, North Carolina, about an hour and a half from Burlington. And I was in a place in my life at that time where, you know, I had graduated from school. I had been working in corporate America for many years. And at the same time that I was working in corporate, I always had like a side business. So a little side hustle. And what I decided to do, you know, I knew that I wanted to get free from working in corporate America. So in 2017, I decided to leave my corporate job. Well, at that same time I left my corporate job, I got married. And, you know, I said, okay, I'm just going to give it all up. I'm not going to deal with that anymore. And so what happened was I decided to work my little side hustle that I had. Which is actually where I met Terry and Tia Edwards. We were in a network marketing company together called World Ventures. And basically what we did was we traveled for a living. Well, we told people we did. We traveled for a living, right? And the great thing about that company was I got to travel a lot and I got to have fun. And that's where I was first exposed to personal development. So reading books, you know, reading Robert Kiyosaki's book, reading, you know, The Rich Dad Poor Dad, reading Millionaire, all these Millionaire Mind type of books. And that's where my first exposure came from. So leaving corporate America, I thought it was going to be easy to be able to work for myself on my own and build that business. The problem was I could never get my income above $2,000 a month. And you guys know, just like I do, that over there, you know, you had to have a massive team in network marketing. I had over 500 people that come through my organization, but I could never build it above $2,000 a month, which was crazy. Imagine having 500 people in the Alliance, right?
You'd be a millionaire.
Oh my gosh, it would be insane. I mean, it's crazy. So so I ended up having to go back to corporate America. I went back in 2018, the end of 2017. And at that same time that I was in corporate, I started having a lot of issues in my marriage at that time. and pretty much got to a place where it was the best decision for me to leave that situation. You know, I'm not going to go into too many details about that, but it was a horrible situation. And then at that same week, in the same week that I decided to separate from my ex-husband, I kicked him out. I tell people Bank of America, which was my job at that time, turned around and kicked me out. So I lost my job and I lost my marriage both in the same week. So when I found the Alliance, basically what happened was I got a phone call, and I remember standing in my kitchen over my sink with my hands on the counter and just like asking God, like, what do you want from me? I give up. I don't know what else to do. And I was just in a very, very broken place. So I got a phone call that night, and it was one of my friends that said, hey, have you talked to Terry and Tia in a while? And I said, no, I haven't talked to them in like 3 years. And he said, I don't know what they're doing. Apparently it's something with insurance, but they're on jets, they're traveling, they're having a whole bunch of fun. You might need to call them. And the first thing that I did, I said, okay, I'll call you back. I hung up the phone with him, immediately called Terry. And again, I haven't talked to them in years. And my first thing was I picked up the phone and I said, Terry, what the hell are y'all doing? That was my question. And they said, well, Mia, we're doing this insurance thing where, you know, it's really, really fun. We're having a great time. And I said, okay, I want in. And they said, well, come out and meet Andy Albright. So that same week, I went to the activity call in Burlington, and I met Andy. And I saw how crazy they were at corporate. I saw Nerf guns, darts flying all over the room. I saw pool tables and basketball courts. And I was like, this is insane. If this is anything like what I think it is, I think this could work for me. And I ended up getting in, and the rest is history. I never went back to a corporate job, and I've been full time since April 14th of last year.
Wow, that was rocking. I mean, you know, it's amazing. I always talk about where I was on my knees praying, Lord, help me get into a different situation. Just show me the way. And then 2 weeks later, you know, Andy Albright calls me. And it's amazing how this opportunity can be an answer to everybody's prayer if you're willing to listen. And that's amazing. That's amazing to me. So when you got started, actually getting to the insurance thing, so that's great because Andy and I, Fitz, we had all been in the Amway business. We'd been in another multi-level. So we kind of had the same thing as you. We had our mindset totally geared up for success and wealth principles. We just didn't find the right vehicle to really maximize it. And so you did what we did. You found the insurance business. So what was like when you started out? Tell us how, you know, your getting started process, when you got on board, you start killing it, you start dialing, you start getting A-leads right away. Tell us how you kind of got ramped up in the business.
Yeah, so okay, so before I even got started, I was hired by a guy who was hired directly to Terry and Tia. I told you guys I knew Terry and Tia before. I've known them for about 6 years before I even started with the Alliance. And the crazy thing is, people are like, oh my gosh, Terry and Tia, they're amazing. But what people don't know is Terry and Tia have been like this for as long as I've known them. They have never changed. They've been the type of people that will just pour into you, give their heart to you. And when I was coming up on my process of joining the Alliance, Terry and Tia just surrounded me with love. They knew that I was in a terrible place in my life, and they knew that I needed so much support. So it actually took me 5 times to pass my exam. I passed on the 5th time because, again, it was so much going on in my life. And I remember calling Terry on my 3rd time, and I said I had failed it. And I actually did the worst that time than I had all the times before. And I said, well, Terry, maybe this just is a sign that God doesn't want me to do this, right? A cop-out. That's an excuse. And what Terry said back to me was, maybe what this is a sign of is maybe God's wanted to see how bad you want it. And I'm so glad that Terry didn't punk out and he challenged me in that way, because I went and I was determined to get my license. So I know there's people probably on the call that were dealing with the same things. I went through it. And then when I got started in the business, I had lost my job. So I didn't have any money. I was barely, I barely had enough money to pay my rent. And I was living off of just a couple $100 I had in my savings account. So I didn't have anything to pour into the business. So what I did was exactly what they told me to do. They said, Mia, go and talk to a couple of people that you already know about our company and write some policies. And I wrote 6 family members. I made $2,300 my first month. And Alex, I was fired up. Woo! And by the 3rd month in the business, I had doubled my income from my old job. So it was crazy.
What a concept. Following what your upline recommends.
Who knew?
Who knew? I tell you what, that's sometimes we don't give that any credence, the power of trying to protect your families. I always say this, Mia, like, what if you found out that your uncle or cousin died with no life insurance, and you had the answer the whole time, but you didn't go, hey, wow, that's rocking. So when you got that money, did you reinvest it in yourself and reinvest it in the business?
Yep. So when I got that money, I paid my minimum bills that I needed to pay just to, keep everything moving. And I put the rest of that money I started my GMR. So they said, well, Mia, how fast can you get on a GMR? And I started my GMR and I've been on that GMR ever since. I think that what a lot of times we forget is how important it is to fund your business. And I think about my business like a store, right? Where if people are walking by, if I have a corner store and they're walking by and they walk in and there's no inventory, there's no drinks, there's no peanut M&Ms, there's no Twizzlers, nothing for them to buy, then they're going to walk right back out and they're going to go to somebody else. How can I run a business if I don't even have inventory? If I don't have leads, if I don't have people that I'm talking to? That has to be constant. So for me, I've never, ever, ever, since the day I've joined this business, I've never missed a week of dialing. I don't know how we can, people do that. And again, I mean, some people are successful at doing that. I guess if they don't dial one week and then they have a really big week. But for me, since I've started, I've had to consistently dial. So it's important that I always have inventory. Now, I don't only do leads. I also write business on referrals. So I don't know if you guys saw in band, but last weekend, for example, I wrote 15 applications and 13 of those applications were referrals. So it's important, like, we're working the whole system, asking people who they know that needs insurance, doing those ERSs, because that will, of course, keep that lead inventory down as well.
That's rocking. So for the new people on the call, explain what a GMR is.
Yeah, so a GMR is Geographical Marketing Request. And basically, we have the coolest department in our company called the Leads team. And what they do is they have all these marketing strategies that they, send people. People contact us through our websites, through letters that they get in the mail, through our television ads. And once these leads come in, they go over to our leads department. Now, I recommend strongly to develop a relationship with Clay Murtis and Ashlyn Davis as fast as you can, and everyone else in the leads team. Because the great thing is, when they see that you're working and they see that you're actually, taking advantage of what we have available to us, I mean, they will pour into you. They will invest into you, their time, their energy, even money, to make sure that you're successful in our business. So really, it's important to stay tight with those guys. And if you don't know, if you're brand new, the first thing I would recommend is setting up an appointment with the leads team as soon as you can, so you can learn everything that they have available.
Absolutely. And it's the GMR is a weekly commitment of taking leads in and making sure your inventory is full so you got something to sell, right? And it is a commitment, but it's a worthy commitment, particularly when you can leverage from the lead system into referrals. So talk about your referral getting. Do you, so talk us through, like, what do you say to a client when you get to the ERS part? Like, what's your wrap on that part of the ATM?
Yeah, so what I keep it really simple with my clients. I think a lot of people try to, I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, and I know this because I used to do it myself. And once you figure out how to just make it really simple and easy for people to understand, they're more willing to let you work the whole process. So what I tell my clients is, let's say I'm sitting with someone named Miss Mary, and we finish writing her application. I'll say, okay, Miss Mary, so here's the last thing we need to do. We need to do what's called your emergency response system. Now, what that is it's very simple. I don't know if you know this, but there's over $1 billion of unclaimed life insurance money just sitting at these companies right now. And that money is never going to be paid out. And she's like, really? And I'll say, yes. And the reason why is because you have all these people that have bought life insurance policies, but none of their family and friends even knew they had life insurance. So that person died. And next thing you know, nobody ever claims the money from the insurance companies. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that that never happens to you and your family. So here's what I need. My company requires me to get a list of about 20 names and numbers of people that I can call, set up time for me to stop by and give them my information as well as the insurance company's information. That way we can make sure that no matter what, your family gets paid. Does that make sense? And then she'll say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then I'll pull out my ERS form and I'll say, and I don't even, I don't say, well, do you know anyone? I say, okay, what's your daughter's name again? What's your best friend's name? And I'll go down and I'll list everybody and I'll tell her, listen, we need to make sure these are local people, because once I call them, I have to make sure that I can set up some time to swing the information by to see them. And then we also take pictures with the client, send over a text message that basically details, hey, my insurance agent Mia is going to be stopping by to see. She's going to be giving you a call. Make sure you take her call and answer that call so she has something that she has to bring by for me. And that way her family and friends knows that I'm going to be calling them. Alex, it's so funny because I was actually sitting with the client. I went through that whole process. The client was so excited that he went ahead and called his sister and he said, hey, I need you to talk to my insurance lady. She's sitting right here. And I told him that I would told her I would be calling to set up a time to swing the information by for her. She hung up the phone. That was fine. She immediately called back and said, hey, I know you're going to bring something by for my brother, but can you help me and my son get life insurance?
Oh my gosh. That's rocking.
Uh-huh.
And you know what, gang? Here's why that happens. Because look at her smile. Do you have any doubt that she's sincere about serving that client and pouring love into that client and taking care of that client? ERS happens when you sow the seeds of love into the people you're sitting down with, and then they give you that love back in that trust of you serving their friends and family. And that's where it comes from, gang. Yep. That's rocking. I love it. So how does the phone call sound when you're calling their ERS person? Let's hear what that sounds like.
Yeah. So again, I keep it very, very simple. Okay. So I'll say, let's say I'm calling Miss Mary's brother, David. So I'll say ring, ring. And then David answers. I'll say, hey, is this David? And then he'll say, yeah, who is this? This is Mia Fennell. I'm a friend of Miss Mary's. I actually just helped her get some life insurance in place. She sent you a text message to let you know I'll be calling. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay, Mr. David. Well, listen, I have some information I need to make sure that I get to you for Miss Mary, so that when something happens to her, that you know exactly who to contact for, as far as me being the agent and also her life insurance company. Now, Miss Mary told me you live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Is that right? Yeah, I live in Charlotte. Okay, good deal. Well, listen, I'll be out in Charlotte on Thursday and Friday. When is usually the best time to catch you when you're home? Is that like mornings, afternoons, or evenings? And I'll make sure I swing this by for you for a few minutes. and I book it like a normal appointment.
And you have a high book rate, right? When you call the referrals?
Yeah, I mean, I try to, yeah, I would say I've only had maybe 2 times where the person's like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
it, I don't want to be involved. Yeah. So
That's great. Okay, so like I'm pretty much like to dig into the details. So when you go over there and you sit down with them, kind of what is your kind of groove into talking to them about on behalf of the client, delivering the
yeah.
information?
So I I think after you sit so many appointments, it becomes more normal for you to sit down with the clients and just start talking and make conversation. So I go into the house like I normally would, give compliments, build rapport with them, tell them, one thing that I do with my clients is I ask them, so how do you know this person? And, tell me a little bit about them. So that way, when I go over there and then I say, oh, your brother, he is crazy, or Miss Mary is crazy about you. That's all she talked about was her brother, David, to kind of build that relationship really
Yeah.
quick. And then from there, I just tell him, so Mr. David, Miss Mary is very, I loved her. She was super sweet. And she really cares about making sure that her family gets this life insurance money paid. So what we put you in was called her emergency response network. Okay, I didn't say beneficiary, Mr. David. I kind of joke with him, and then he'll say, and I say, what that is when something happens to Miss Mary, and I always say when it comes to life insurance, I never say if. So I say when something happens to Miss Mary, you're one of the people that we're counting on to make sure that you call me or the life insurance company right away, so that we can make sure that Miss Mary's family gets paid. Does that make sense to you? And he's like, yeah. And then I'll say, the reason we do this is because there's over $1 billion of unclaimed life insurance money. It's never going to be paid to the families. And I just don't want you guys to be in that situation, because Miss Mary does have life insurance that she's been paying for, and we kind of book it from there, go from there. And then I'll tell them the details of her policy. I don't say the amounts. It depends on who I'm talking to. But I say, so Miss Mary's policy, she has what's called living benefits in the policy. And this is if she were to be diagnosed with something critical, chronic, or terminal, she could actually use her life insurance policy while she's still living. And then he'll say, oh, really? And I'll say, yeah, Mr. David, do you have your life insurance policy? Is it already set up like that? And they'll say, no, I don't think mine has that. and then we'll go and we'll start talking about life insurance.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some times where you just say, now, Mr. David, do you have life insurance in place for you and your family? I always ask people. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking to make sure.
Right. Absolutely. I love that, how you kind of lead them a little bit by kind of highlighting the living benefits, and then they either kind of take the bait or not. And then if they don't, then, hey, let's ask them. We're there anyway, right? Sometimes
Exactly.
you got to push a little bit, but not, again, the whole purpose of the ERS is to deliver the information. But when there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity. So just percentage-wise, when you sit down with people, what percentage of the people you sit down with would convert to an application? Do you have any idea?
Are you talking about, you're not talking about ERSs, you're saying just
No, ERSs. So like when you sit down with like 10 ERSs, how many people out of 10 do you think would pick up another policy? Do you have any idea what that number is?
I don't know. I know that I've written several policies off of ERSs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's one of those things. It's like kind of hit and miss.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you don't really know who's gonna need a policy or who won't. But right. I always ask for referrals. I always say, anybody else who doesn't have life insurance? Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Mm-hmm. We had Megan Cheddar on in Cincinnati, and one thing she does, she has 2 ERS lists. She gives the normal ERS, and then she says, okay, so tell me, who in your family would hit you up for money if they or their personal people that they knew died? Who would hit you up for money? Mm-hmm. Would write down a whole bunch of family that would hit them up for money if they didn't have life insurance. She has like 2 lists. It's crazy. Anyway, well, good deal. That's great. So 13 out of 15 apps are referral apps. Man, that's rocking. So now let's go back to kind of your regular business that you write. What is your appointment goal per week when you go out and start booking your week? How many appointments is your goal?
My appointment goal is 20. When Andy talks about being full-time, he always says that you can't, be a full-time person doing less than 20 appointments. So I always try to get the 20 appointments. Like last week, I booked 22. And what I'll show you guys my activity book. It looks crazy. Don't judge me.
Woo!
Kind of see how it goes each week with me. And I can always tell when there's, when I need to get some coaching from Terry and Tia, or when I know I need to go back and do some follow-ups. But one of the things that I do is I run business on Thursdays and Fridays, and I use Tuesdays and Wednesdays to book appointments. So I'll put stars beside the ones that I know for sure are going to be home. And the ones that don't have stars, I will double book. So that way I can fit more people on my schedule.
That's rocking.
Yeah, I used to get no-showed. When I first started, there was I remember one weekend in particular where I literally got no-showed on every single appointment. I think I had probably 12 appointments that day, those 2 days, and I got no-showed on everybody. And I was like, what is going on? And when I figured out, lately I've been figuring out that if you double book people, one thing that Chris Hill told me is your time is so valuable. It's better for you to have to no-show a client than a client to no-show you.
That's right.
So yeah.
You're the doctor. Remember, you're the doctor. How many doctors double book, man? You seriously, they do that, and you're the doctor. So tell me, what is your kind of feeling when you decide you can put a star next to it versus no star? What's the difference in that booking?
Yeah. The people who tend to give me some pushback and want to fight and go back and forth on the phone, I don't want this. I told them do not sit. Those are the people that I'm going to double book. But the ones that, when I say I'll give them my code word, or I'll say, it runs pretty smooth. And I also have them on my appointments, the ones that I can confirm. Like I'll have them write something down. I'll give them a code word, which is basically my NAA number. And I give them my phone number, not my phone number. I give them my name, and also have them write down the date and time that I'm coming. Those are the people that I know that I can put a star by. Also, I tell them, I always ask, is it okay if I pull in the driveway, or do you want me to park on the street? I'll be driving a black Jeep, so when you see that pull up, make sure you know that's Mia. Robbie Kraft told me one time that he wants people to be able to visualize him coming to their house. So that's why I asked, can I pull in the driveway, or do you want me to park on the street? Because I want them to know exactly how it's going to look when I get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tie down. So when you're booking appointments, what is the top 3? We took care of it already. We're not interested anymore. How do you handle those type of objections? What's your standard?
When people say that, so Andy Albright always talks about booking appointments as a game. Your job is to be able to get to their house. Their job is to be able to stop you from coming to their house. So if you know that going in, if you know that's the mindset, then just don't. It doesn't matter what they say. All that matters is our job is to get over there and give them the information. So if somebody tells me, oh, they're not interested, oh, that's no problem. I understand. But listen, the only thing my job is just to make sure you receive the information. So what I'll do, I'll put you down as my last appointment. I'll stop by there on my way home. That'll be about 7:30, 8 o'clock. You got anything going on at that time, Miss Mary? Well, no, I don't have anything at that time. Okay, good deal. I got you down. Now grab a pen and paper really quick, and you go right back into booking the appointment. Or if they say, I don't want anybody coming to my house. One thing, Terry cracks me up. He always says, yeah, well, Miss Mary, I don't want to come over there either, but I got to get it to you. So what time did you say you normally get home from work in the evenings? The main thing is to acknowledge what they say and then get them back on track and go ahead and book the appointment. Clients can really send us off down a rabbit hole, take us off on a trail. And the goal is not to become friends over the phone, not to sell them a policy over the phone. It's really just to find out what time they're going to be home. If I know that a person works they work at night, I'm not going to try to book them for nighttime. The next, if they say, well, I can't, I'm busy this week, then I'll call them back and say, hey, Miss Mary, I have an appointment for, I know you work at nighttime. I have a spot open here, between 11 and 12. I can go ahead and put you down. And you kind of work with what people are telling you. It's so funny. Eli brought up a really good point this morning. I told him that I had a lot of appointments that we had to reschedule for this week. So they roll over into my next week. And he said, oh, so you call them back and reschedule. A lot of times I think that people just don't want to see me. And what I told him was, I used to think that too. I literally thought the same thing. But what I found out was a lot of people they're not always lying to you. Sometimes they really did forget. Sometimes they really are busy. There's been people that I've called that they had to go to the emergency room with a family member. That's just what happens. So it's okay to stay in contact with those people. If it's somebody that you've been talking to a lot, you can send them a text message if it comes down to it and that's what you need to do, or leave a voicemail. These are last resort type things. Yeah. But building the relationship, I've had many clients where I've actually been able to build a relationship with, and I went out, it may have took 2 or 3 times us booking the appointment, but I sold it.
I love it. You're persistent with them. And a lot of times clients appreciate that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Because they want the information.
That's right.
It's not always convenient for them when they can get it, but they do want it.
Absolutely. So your goal is 20 appointments. So you're at the point now where it's like you'll dial however many dials you need to make, right? To book 20?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So whether it took 200 dials or 100 dials, it's like whatever. Because now it's an appointment goal. That's rocking. Right. That's rocking. So, so I'm just curious, your GMR. So what does your GMR consist of? Like A leads or other leads, or what's like your combination? What's your magic combo?
I do receive A leads. I also receive A1s, and I think I get a couple of reworks sometimes, a little bit in there, but it's mostly A leads and A1 leads.
A1s.
Yeah. So the way I decided how I wanted to set up my GMR, Terry told me that for every $100 you invest into your GMR, you should write about $1,000 in business. I have seen that for myself, that's how it works. I know that for sure. So I used to think that having a GMR, like when I first got started, I think my GMR was like maybe $200 a week, or it's never been less than $150 or $200 a week. But the higher the GMR, the more money that I make. I know that for sure. I think that a lot of times we get scared when we set that number so high because we're committed to paying that bill every week. I had to change my mentality on that. Literally, my GMR, I make sure that bill is paid every week. Like when that is one of the most important bills, other than having a car to drive, because I can't get to appointments without a car, and paying for where I live. My GMR is the most important thing that I pay for now. And it took me a while to get to that point. But if you understand that if you write just one application a week, it'll cover the cost of your GMR. And if your GMR is $300 or $400 a week, it will cover the cost. But imagine going from having a $100 GMR or $50 GMR to now you're committed to $300 and $400, but now you're one of the top people writing business in the entire company. Is it worth it? And I just had to decide for myself, it was worth it for me to be able to put enough inventory into my business so that I'm producing the type of results that I want to see. And when I tell you, Alex, this thing has been paying off. It's been sweet.
That's why I call it an ATM, right? You put money in, you get money out. The one thing
putting some money out.
we've taught this for a long time. You get 10 A leads. Let's say you're paying $300 for 10 A leads.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make one sale out of 10, and one sale should cover the cost of the A leads, even after the 75% advance. So every sale after that first sale is pure profit.
Yep.
So, and it'll average week after week after week. It'll start averaging that. So, isn't that cool to know one sale covers the lead, and then boom, covers the lead build, and everything else is pure profit from there, plus ERS referrals on top of that. Man, if you wrote an extra ERS referral per week, that covers your lead build right there. So then you're mega profitable. So that's cool. So tell me, how are you doing on annuities? Are you finding annuity opportunities?
The annuities is not my strong point right now, but I'm learning each opportunity that I find. I learn something from it, figure out something else that I could do. I have found money, and I've sat through appointments with Chris Norris, a couple of clients that are pending, and things that we're going to be working on. But I think the thing that I'm just learning is to stay around the people that are doing things like that. Stay around the Terry Edwards of the Alliance. Stay around, get close to some of these leaders. That's what I would tell, anyone listening on this call, because even if it's not your strong point right now, if you stick around long enough, if you go to the hot spots, if you build relationships with the people that are doing these things, eventually that stuff is going to rub off on you. So I actually have Tanisha. She's been sticking around as well. And, I haven't necessarily been writing annuities, but Tanisha's been killing it with annuities. So the main thing is just keeping everybody plugged in, staying connected to the people, and eventually that stuff is going to rub off for sure.
Absolutely. Now, gang, look, she's only been in our business, 14 months, roughly 14 months. She's like number 71 issue paid business of the top 100. She's number 71 up to August 24th. She's only been with us 14 months. And look how far she's going. So what I love about what she said is she's got more to learn. Like no one's ever made it. Even Terry, he's got stuff to learn. We all got stuff to learn. I got stuff to learn. And I hope y'all learn some stuff that she's learning now that will help you. So that's what I love about you're kind of like, you're on your way. Like Brant Swindell, everyone sees Brant Swindell 5 years later, right, Mia?
Yeah.
Oh, Brant Swindell. But they didn't see him when he was like 14 months in the business. And I think Mia is further ahead than he was 14 months in the business. So, I mean, a year from now, she's going to be like rocking every aspect of the business. So here's the beautiful thing is that we've got people that haven't even gotten started yet, or they're just booking their first appointments. They're wanting to have belief. We had Megan Wood on our call last week, and she just, gave people belief and rocked it. So let's get you out of here on this. What would be your recommendation for brand new people just getting started? They want to believe they can do it. Like, tell us some things that you'd recommend, like hotspot meetings, association. We got the national conference. Like, what are things you think are important for the brand new people to kind of get their mind right on getting started with us?
So the first thing that I would recommend, if you're brand new, the belief probably isn't there yet. And that's what happened with me. When I first got in, I knew that there was people making money. I knew that it was possible for me to be successful in this company, but I couldn't see it, and even sometimes now, things are happening and it's crazy. And sometimes I still have to have a check like, okay, it's possible for me. So what I would recommend as a brand new person, if you don't believe that you can do it right now, it's really important to be around people who you can borrow their belief. Going to the hotspot meetings, not just one hotspot meeting a month, not just, every other week, but going to the hotspot meetings consistently is key. Feeling and taking ownership of the meeting, not saying that you have to go in there and move everybody else out the way and you have to dominate everything. But that's the place and time for us to be able to plug in, get connected to our family, and really pour into each other. So taking ownership in that aspect and just being there to serve, being there to work, that's really, really important. I think we have a screen share going on.
Yeah, I don't know how that is happening.
I'm not sure. I think that's okay. Well, but I'll keep talking. The other thing that I would say is, reading the books, listening to the audios, being on every single call. I know that you guys are all over the country, so it's really important that you're plugged in as much as possible. And even though you can't necessarily live here in North Carolina and get to Burlington, being connected to everybody is key. But I would say this: if you're in a place where you are just trying to decide if this is something that you really want to do, or if you're already in, but you're trying to figure out if you should take that jump and really go full force with it, I would ask you, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen if you decide to just jump all the way in and get connected and go all the way, surprise yourself and set up 20 appointments, or, make a bunch of recruiting dials. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that I think can happen is you're going to live your life in regret. And one of that scares me so much, to be in a place where I knew that I had an opportunity to change my family's life and I didn't take advantage of it. The best thing that can happen is you get a family like I found with the Alliance that I never thought could even be possible. The people in this company are genuine, more genuine in a way that I can even describe. I mean, that I've cried with these people. We've been in the field together. We're working together. I mean, we hug and kiss each other, and just it's the most incredible thing that I've ever seen, being around the Alliance family. So my biggest piece of advice is just be plugged in. Be plugged in. Don't half do this thing. Don't give it, 50% effort. Go all the way and really see what it could look like. 2 months into this company, I was on Andy Albright's jet. Crazy. 2 months before sitting on the jet, I was eating lunch in a cubicle at Bank of America, working as an analyst, the most boring job I've ever had in my entire life. Okay? Eating in a cubicle. 2 months later, I'm flying on a private jet, eating lunch with the CEO of $100 million company. How does that even happen? But it's that belief. And that was 14 months ago. And I would just say that if you decide this is somewhere you want to be, they will love you. They will you will have an incredible life just because you decided to lock arms with this team. So thank you, Alex, for having me on this call. You and Jenny are amazing. Your team is amazing. Patrick, my friend, he's on this call. He's texting me right now. And I'm just so honored and privileged to be here. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys.
Oh, man, you rock. Thank you so much. You have, I'm getting some texts and stuff from people. You've really touched them. And I can't be more pleased and honored that you were here to share with us and share that love and attitude, because that's what it's all about, man. Love conquers all. And you heard where she was. She was not in a good place. And then God answered her prayer. She said, Lord, help me. He answered her prayer with the Alliance. And think about how many people out there, that people that you know on your warm market list that are on their knees. Like last night, they're on their knees saying, Lord, help me. But you have the answer for them. All you need to do is like pick up the phone and say, hey, we need some help. And find out who wants to help us out. But what you end up doing is you help them get plugged into a family that will love on them, will help them make it through whatever the crap they're going through to a better life and a better future. And man, when I look at Mia's face smiling, I see a face of hope. I see a face of moving on and making her life something that God wants her to be. I see her walking down that path of God's will, and you can't find more joy. And doesn't mean that everything's perfect. It just means that no matter what happens, she knows why she's doing this. She knows she's serving other people, and ultimately, God's smiling on her, man, because he's going, well done, good and faithful servant. What I can trust you in small things, I will trust you in big things. And she's chasing after those big things. So Mia, rock on. My love to Terry and Tia, and give Andrew a big hug for me because I don't see him as much as you're seeing him.
Grab me out.
There he is. God bless y'all. Thanks everybody for plugging in. I will get this video uploaded, and man, we're going to share it with the world. Thank you, Mia, Fennell. You rock. God bless y'all.
Bye, guys.